Thank you for listening to the BjjBrick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back to the BjjBrick Podcast. This is episode 288. This week we have an interview with Maria Malyjasiak. My name is Byron. I'm here with my good buddies Gary and Joe. We're also known as the Larry, Curly, and Mo of the Jiu-Jitsu podcasting world. My stooges.
I guess I'm Larry because that rhymes with Gary.
Ooh.
So I guess I'm Mo.
Well, I don't know how I fit into this because nothing rhymes with Byron that well, but...
Well, we can make you Shemp.
I don't want to be Shemp. I want to be Curly. I have a similar haircut as Curly, so we'll go with that.
Well, we could actually go, with your back hair, because your back hair is very curly. So that might work.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Larry.
Oh, you're welcome, Curly.
We've got a great show this week. Look forward to bringing the whole thing to you. We've got a great quote, article, and of course the interview is a lot to learn from. But real quick, I want to give a mention of a product we have. It's an audiobook. It's called 6 BJJ Training Games. They're designed to alter the way you're rolling to help you get better faster, help discover your own unique game, and also enjoy rolling from a different perspective. And I've definitely used all these games while training and found benefits from each one of them. And it's really nice because you're working within your own games like set and the things you like to do, but you're altering things slightly. And it really helps you discover, well, look at this from a new angle, a new perspective. And it's a great learning tool. And it's an audiobook, so it's very similar to a podcast, except for it's $5.99, and the podcasts you get here are free. It's about an hour long, and it's made by me, yours truly, also known as
Curly.
Curly. But there'll be a link to it in the show notes if you want to check it out. It's really designed for kind of blue belt and up, but anybody could really benefit from it and have some more fun while you're rolling there, and definitely expand the way you train.
Okay, guys, so that brings us to our quote of the week by Gary Kasparov, notable chess player. It says, "Attackers may sometimes regret bad moves, but it is much worse to forever regret an opportunity you allowed to pass you by." And I suppose this quote has application both to in the moment when you're doing jiu-jitsu and bigger picture. Certainly, especially competition, maybe it's a real close match or you're down by a few points, and if you continue to play a conservative game, then that match is going to pass you by. And a lot of times I've talked to guys after those matches, and they're like, man, I thought I saw Kimura, or I thought I saw Sweep, but it didn't feel like the time was right. But sometimes when those opportunities come up, you got to take them or you're going to regret them. And certainly if anybody stumbled onto this podcast and you're thinking about taking jiu-jitsu, that's one of those moves that if you don't make it, you may regret it 10 years from now. I've talked to a lot of guys come in and they're a 35-year-old white belt and they're like, yeah, I've been thinking about this for years, or I started training once 8 years ago and quit after a few months. Don't let those opportunities go by you. So yeah, I'd rather regret a move I made that didn't work out very well than be kicking myself for not taking a chance.
That's a great point, Joe. I always hear people say, man, I wish I would have attempted that. For some reason they didn't. But I really like your second point, that how many people have we talked to that I've been thinking about doing this for a long time, but I need to get in shape or something happened and you didn't pull the trigger. And I can tell you I did that in my first time I went to try jiu-jitsu. I know I've told the story before, but I didn't go in. I drove past the place. I was intimidated. I didn't pull the trigger. I'm glad I did the second time I walked by. But, because it would definitely be something I regret. Who knows if I would ever even get on the mat, because I tell you, now that I'm on the mat, I'm a different person. It's changed my life. It's made me, a much more better person, much calmer, much more happy person. But when I was thinking of this quote, I was thinking we can change it a little bit and, make it a jiu-jitsu quote. Attackers may sometimes regret bad moves, but it is much worse to forever regret an opportunity and you allowed your opponent to pass. And what I'm thinking of is...
That's a good one, Gary.
What I'm thinking of is, let's say the guy's in my half guard and, all I'm doing is framing and not working on sweeps or not working on submissions. And as I work on sweeps and submissions, a lot of times your opponent is forgetting about passing, because they're defending. So, that's an attacker. I need to be attacking. And, hopefully we'll stop some of the bad stuff coming my way as long as I'm attacking.
That's a good one, Gary. Are you
talking to me or are you talking to Gary Kasparov?
Either one. I like how you made it into a guard pass because he does mention the word pass in his quote, which is nice.
Well, I hate to say it when I first read it. That's what I thought it was saying. And then I saw Gary Kasparov and I was like, he trains jiu-jitsu? And then I had to read it again. And I was like, okay, it's a little different.
The quote is that good for jiu-jitsu. It just sounds right.
Yeah, it does.
They say it's like chess, but with your body.
I wonder how, because, we do talk about chess, and it seems like people who do really well in jiu-jitsu are pretty smart, because it is like chess. They're always thinking ahead. They kind of know what their opponent's going to do. I bet Gary Kasparov would be good at jiu-jitsu.
Well, I think potential would be there, but you have to train jiu-jitsu to be good at jiu-jitsu. I don't think he trains. I don't know if he trains.
Maybe.
I think I would know.
Maybe he regrets it.
Oh, ooh, that's deep. Yeah. I had some stuff to say about this quote, but I wanted to kind of change and just piggyback off of Gary there, or Larry. And
me or Kasparov?
Knock. He mentions he went to jiu-jitsu, he pulled up in the parking lot, and you changed your mind and you didn't go in. And
I didn't change my mind. I got scared.
You got scared. I was trying to be nice to you there, Gary. Okay. So I think that probably happens more often than we'd like to admit. Like something we show up at, for the first day, or we think about, today I'm going to go, and then you find something better to do, but it's really just like, oh, I have to do laundry tonight, or like you just give yourself an excuse to not do something, and that fear. Just tell yourself that the jiu-jitsu school you're going to is a business, and they should want you as a customer. And go in there and check it out. Like, they should be friendly. They should be welcoming to you, and these sorts of things. It shouldn't be like you walk in and it's people yelling at you and breaking your spirit to build you back. Like, it should be. This looks like fun. These people look like they're having a good time. Sure, some are a lot more serious than others, but there's a diversity there, and if you're wanting like that intense group, find that right gym. Or find those people in that gym to work with. But just the idea that you're sitting in the parking lot like, oh man, this is going to be crazy. Everybody choking each other and choking me and I don't know if I'll tap fast enough. All these things are building. No, just think it's a business. They have to want and keep me as a customer. It should be ran like that. And that's the way more and more jiu-jitsu schools are being ran. Go in the door and check it out. And I'm glad you did, Gary. I'm glad you came back the second time.
Well, thank you.
So I got an off-the-mat lesson, and Joe kind of wrapped up a theme of like safety on ships, and I think I'm going to kind of start a little theme of firefighting, and basically I'll kind of run through a bit of a scenario or something, and over the course of several weeks here. So we get dispatched to a house fire. A lot of units are coming. A lot of the trucks and stuff are very big. We have like smaller vehicles like Chiefs cars or pickup trucks and a couple other smaller vehicles, and then engines that pump the fire, and then we have like a big ladder truck. So all this stuff is going to go to the same place, and it's something that you typically. The people who get there first have the more exciting jobs, typically, and so, and you could typically do the most good right away, and so everyone wants to be the first ones there, because that's where the intensity is and that's where the action is. If you show up last, you might get an assignment like make sure everything is kind of safe. Or it's just not as exciting. I can't get in those details. But so you get there first, and the big thing when you're the first arriving units is that you park in a good spot, and you've got literally a couple seconds to figure out where to park, and you're often looking at a structure that's on fire, and you don't want to park too close because it depending on the size of it might actually kind of burn what you're driving. But if it's just the typical house fire in Wichita, Kansas, we have front yards big enough, that's not an issue. But you can't park. We don't park in the front yard. We park typically we'll drive past it and park in the neighbor's front yard. But things happen. Cars are parked in the street. Some streets are narrow, these sort of things. And it's also nice to have an idea where the hydrants are going to be. So if you happen to park short and block the street, the whole fire is going to be kind of messed up. The other units can't get in where they need to go. So you can think of firefighting as the people do the work, but we need to have these big machines to do the work effectively. And if the big machines are parked too far away, it just creates a lot of problems, not set up to attack the fire that way. So it's really important for the first units that get there to park in an organized manner. And sometimes we'll be parking in people's driveways and that sort of thing to get them out of the way if they're just kind of in the way. So I just think of the initial setup of the fire attack. It happens in a couple of seconds when we arrive, and it has a huge effect on whether we burn the house down or we put it out and contain the fire to one room. And I've been at fires where both have happened. Some people have messed up the parking. We have problems getting the water supply to the fire attack engine, and it's just a disaster. Those fires get out of control so fast, and most fires, thank goodness, due to training, go very smoothly. We are able to pull past or get it out of the way, get a water supply, attack the fire. We use our tank water to attack the fire. That's kind of a unique thing here in Wichita. Most departments have to get a hydrant before they go in and put it out. Anyway, I just the initial setup is so important. Same thing in jiu-jitsu. The initial setup of your match is super important. If you're a guard player and you spend any time fighting for a takedown, you're probably, not just wasting time, but potentially giving the other person 2 points. And if you do get the takedown, do you want to be a guard passer, or were you planning on being a guard player? So just the initial setup of what you want to do and getting it headed in the right direction right away has a huge effect on the rest of the entire match. Did I explain that worth a darn, guys?
Yeah, you did. I like that. And early on, I liked when you were talking about, know where the parking is going to be, know where the hydrants are, everybody kind of getting in the right places. And I'm sort of thinking logistically about jiu-jitsu. And, you got that plan. Like you said, you want to know what you want to do and get in there and be first or whatever. But you also need to know all the logistics of jiu-jitsu and the positions. And when you do get that takedown, what your hands doing, what are your feet doing? You want to understand the big picture. And so I like where you went with that, Byron.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe. And just because something doesn't happen the way you like it to happen right away doesn't mean we can't recover. I've had fires where we've parked and the neighbor from behind called it in, and they called it in from their house. So we go to their house, and there's smoke in the neighborhood. We know we're getting ready, and it's actually in the neighbor's backyard. It's the other house. And so we end up having to adjust, and do we detach our hose and drive around the block, or do we just go over the fence and fight the fire from that way? You have to be able to adapt. Same thing on jiu-jitsu. You could end up the first opening few seconds of your match, end up with somebody having mount. Deal with that the best you can right away, and work from that position, and hopefully it'll get better.
Yeah, and then you were talking about, Byron, somebody parks in the wrong spot. They don't pull past the house, and everything's messed up. And just like jiu-jitsu, we are gonna, after the match is over, after the fire's done, we're gonna go back. We're gonna find out what mistakes we made. We're going to talk about them, and, hopefully we learn from our mistakes. And next time, maybe that guy's going to pull past the house to leave room for other people.
Exactly right. Gary, Larry. I like calling you Larry.
Are you talking to me or Kasparov?
Well, if Kasparov is listening, send me an email, Mr. Kasparov. I'd love to have you on, and we'll talk about strategy.
Byron, I have another question. It's not jiu-jitsu related, but why are you guys unique and use tank water versus hydrants? Why, or what's the advantage, disadvantage?
We have 500 gallons of water on our engines. Our engines are what we prefer to attack fires with. It lasts about 2 minutes, and we're an aggressive department in that we have a lot of, statistically speaking, we control more fires to the room of origin. Like if a fire started in Gary's bedroom because he had so many candles lit during a romantic time.
Are you talking about me or Kasparov?
Kasparov on that one, Gary. I mean, I know you're not a candle man. I don't know how I'd know that. But our goal is to contain that fire to that room. And we're able to do that more than most departments because we hop off our engines, pull a line, and start flowing water. Our goal is within a minute. And if it's a little more dangerous for us because you're in there fighting fire, and if something goes wrong, you only have a few minutes of water to fix the problem. And we are also relying on another engine to come and to get us a hydrant hooked up, which often takes more than a couple minutes. And so it's a little bit of work for the person on the nozzle to kind of say, okay, how much water do I have? How much have I been flowing? And you can also tell by feeling if they've got that water supply established from the hydrant. But most departments secure the hydrant, secure the uninterrupted water supply, and go in and put the fire out. But just by adding that 2 minutes to the process, more structures, more fires leave that original room of origin, and thus making it more dangerous for anybody in the house as well. So we take a little bit more risk and put fire out a little bit quicker.
Byron, I like that. You're talking about you guys are an aggressive fire department. Your goal is to do everything under a minute, and I know that's your personal goal too, everything under a minute. But it's just like jiu-jitsu, and it's just like our quote from Kasparov, not me, but where you're talking about attacking. You guys are the aggressive attackers. There's also the counter grapplers. There's a counter. Hopefully, there's no counter fire departments. But I thought that with your explanation, I thought it worked great for the attackers. You're attacking that fire at the room of origin. You're using the tank. You're coming with the big guns, so you don't waste a couple minutes. Hooking the hose up. I know you always have trouble with your hose, but things like that. So I don't know. I actually didn't think that when I was talking to you about that would have anything to do with jiu-jitsu, but I thought it related to a quote. It just when I'm doing jiu-jitsu, I have trouble with those guys who just attack constantly, and the fire's having trouble with the aggressive attacking fire department. They're going to put it out much quicker.
Man, Gary, this should have been your life less off the bat lesson.
I am in the wrong business. I should be a firefighter.
It's not too late, Gary. We'll get you in the next academy.
I don't think I could pass it. You guys do too much stuff. I need some basic stuff.
You have to bring Connor by the station one of these days, Gary. Show him the truck.
I have eaten at Firehouse Subs and got one of the hats, so maybe.
You're well on your way.
Practically a firefighter already.
I imagine you've also put out a fire before.
I have, because I like to, I use candles a lot. I don't know if you guys know that or not.
All right, guys. In order to save this from derailing into a candle podcast, let's bring our interview this week. Here we go. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
I invented a gi that does not need washing. I never did bring it to market. Rumor is that the big clothing detergent companies purchased this pattern from me. I have never won a referee's decision because I've never been in a referee's decision. In order to keep all my landscaping looking good, I roll with all the stones in my yard. Mick Jagger saw this in 1961 and was inspired.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BjjBrick Podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Maria Malyjasiak to the BjjBrick Podcast. Maria, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm excited to have you here. You're a competitor and coach in the jiu-jitsu world, and it's been fun watching you compete, both gi and no gi. Maria, introduce yourself a little bit to the audience if they haven't heard from you.
Hi, my name is Maria Malyjasiak. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Abmar Barbosa. I'm from Poland, but I train and live right now in Virginia.
How did you get started with martial arts?
So I changed schools when I was 13 years old in 2002. And we were supposed to have a swimming class, but the swimming pool was closed, so our PE teachers took us for a walk. And I was walking with one of my friends that was training judo at the time, so she was walking with one of the PE teachers who was a judo coach. And he told me that instead of eating Pizza Hut once a month, I can train judo for the whole month, for the same month. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a try. I came to first class, fell in love with judo, and stayed.
How long did you train judo for?
I trained judo for about, I would say, 9 to 10 years.
Do you still do a little bit of that, or do you focus on jiu-jitsu?
No, I don't do any judo. I just maybe train some takedowns sometimes during jiu-jitsu class.
So you started judo about the age of 13.
Yeah.
And you really liked it. What were some reasons that you liked it so much?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Did you do any other sports or any other physical activities?
I was always a very active child. I was playing tennis, swimming, playing soccer, basketball. I loved PE. When I started going to school, I was actually thinking about being a PE teacher, up until I was told by a friend that at Sports Academy they do 100 sit-ups a day, and then I was like, that's not for me. But I was 7 years old, so. Yeah.
That's funny. Eventually, you found your way from judo to jiu-jitsu. How did that happen?
So, in my judo academy, we started having MMA classes, and that cut our judo class from an hour and a half to an hour, and that wasn't enough for me, so I was staying for the MMA class. And I've been training then MMA for like a year, I would say. And the MMA coach told me about a summer camp, MMA summer camp, which I thought that it was a summer MMA camp, and I went for that camp. And it ended up being over 100 people doing jiu-jitsu and about 15 people doing MMA. And right there, I've met some jiu-jitsu people from Poland. And the jiu-jitsu coach for like Polish national team, and back then there was like grappling under FILA, the wrestling federation. I don't know if you've heard about it. And they told me to go compete to qualify for the national team in grappling, and I did. I qualified. I started training. I started competing in grappling, and the first, I think it was World Championships that we went to, I got the tracksuit for the national team, for which I was waiting for a long time in judo, because I've been representing Poland in judo for many years already back then. And that thing kind of, I was really happy that I finally got the tracksuit, which is of course really weird thing, being happy about a tracksuit, but it was kind of important thing for me. And since then, my love for judo started going down, and I focused more on grappling. And one day, a friend of mine from the grappling team told me about Abu Dhabi trials that were in Poland. And he said, I can win a ticket to Abu Dhabi. And I was like, whoa, how is that possible? I've been only winning medals so far for those many years, like no money, no trips, no anything. And I would have to even spend my own money to go compete, right? So I was like, oh, that's great. So I was like, okay, I think I had like a month or two before the competition. I was like, I gotta go do some jiu-jitsu at least to learn the rules if I'm going to compete at it. And I competed at the trials. I won the trials. I was so happy. I cried first time in my life. And that changed everything. And I pretty much stopped training judo because, I qualified for Abu Dhabi Worlds. And I started training jiu-jitsu full time. And that was it. I was done with judo. Judo broke my heart already. So, I broke up. I broke up with judo and started dating jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I guess you broke judo's heart when you said
no,
this is
they broke my heart because I was in the national team for many years.
Yeah.
Even when I would win my weight class right at nationals, they would never take me. The national team would never take me for any of the competition in Europe. If I went for any, it was only because my parents would take me and spend the money. They would always take somebody else in my weight class, even at the time when I was the champion. Like the federation, I guess like every federation everywhere was corrupted, and my coach wasn't best friends with the national team coach, so I never got a chance to go and compete for the national team's money at any international tournament.
So how much submission grappling or jiu-jitsu were you doing before you went to the trials?
I don't even remember how often I went to train there. Maybe I went like 3 or 4 times a week for like 2 months. And I wasn't like training like a grappling I was like doing MMA for a year. So we had like maybe submission grappling once a week in the MMA class, So I've been training submission grappling for a year once a week, and then 2 months for jiu-jitsu, like maybe 3 or 4 times a week.
Why do you think you did so well?
I think because I was competing as a white belt with white belts and blue belts together, and I think like people who train judo, they have something. There's something with them that they think they're already amazing going into any other grappling martial art, So the fact that I believed in myself and I wanted to win helped me win. Maybe I wasn't like very technical or whatever. Probably I wasn't. I had a nice takedown, and that was pretty much it. I was strong too. Don't know.
Yeah, that's really cool. So eventually, when did you move to the U.S.?
So in 2013, I was invited by Robert Drysdale to come and compete at IBJJF Worlds as a purple belt. And the head of Zenit in Poland helped me with that. He got me a ticket to go to United States. Robert took care of me when I came here. And being at the camp before the Worlds, I met Abmar Barbosa, who is right now my fiancé. And, after that, I decided to move. So in September of 2013, I was pretty much already here training with Abmar.
And was that a fairly easy process moving here, or was that pretty tricky?
For me, it wasn't hard. For me, if I make a decision about something, I just go and do it,
That's good.
Yeah, I'm the only child, so my parents can't really do anything to stop me. They already know me that if I decide something, I do it. So,
Marisha, tell me a little bit about your style, like the type of techniques you prefer to play, or the type of game you use.
So before I met Abmar, when I was like purple belt, I would only use my takedown game, right, and pass guard, and maybe get an armbar here or there. I wasn't really a guard player, but Abmar forced me to work on my guard, and right now, for me, I don't really care if I'm on the bottom or on top. So I can play guard or pass guard. If my opponent wants to stay standing up, I'm not going to waste time and dance with the man, pull guard and play guard. If they want to pull, I can stay on top and try pass.
What are some of your favorite guard attacks?
Right now, I love to play De La Riva, but I mix it too with other guards. It's not like I stick to it. Before it was mostly spider, now it's like a little bit spider to get to De La Riva, and then maybe some half guard with lapel.
So how does that all change when it goes to Nogi? Do you have different favorite techniques?
Yeah,
obviously spider guard doesn't really work so well.
Yeah, spider guard doesn't work so well in Nogi or the kind of De La Riva that I play. So it's mostly like half guard, I would say, in Nogi. Half guard, reverse De La Riva kind of thing.
All right, and tell me a little bit about your training routine. How many times a week are you training, and what does that look like?
So I don't train jiu-jitsu very often because I train only like 5 times a week. Monday to Friday in the afternoons, and then I lift weights 3 times a week.
So are you lifting? Obviously, there's not enough days for those to all be different. So are you always doing something, or do you have a day where you do nothing?
Sundays I do nothing. Actually, I don't do nothing anymore because I do yoga now on Sundays. But let's say I do nothing on Sundays.
It's recovery, kind of. Yoga's helpful to.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, how do you mix the time on the mats with the time in doing weights?
I lift weights in the morning, and I train at night.
Do you think that the weights, like if you lift, are you pretty tired when you show up to train, or does it not really matter?
I am pretty tired. That's why, I was lifting weights Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But now I changed it so that Fridays I only have jiu-jitsu and I lift again on Saturday, because it was really hard on my body to do so much training. I don't know how some other people train 3 or more times a day.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I
think you found a good pace for what you're doing, and it sounds like it's working well. Tell me a little bit about you've done really well in both gi and no gi. How are you able to do that?
I don't know how I'm able to do that, but what Abmar makes me do is that we usually train only in the gi, and before the no gi season comes up, like about 2 months before no gi season, we switch completely to do only no gi. So I don't mix gi with no gi during the whole year, right? I focus on one, depending on the season.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but I would tell you that training no gi for the competition for it's been more than 2 months because they moved Pan Ams and Worlds very far away. So it was pretty annoying to train no-gi for that long. It was a very sad period of time for me.
You prefer to train with the gi?
Yeah, a lot.
Why is that?
I think gi is more technical. And there's a lot more, there's so many different grips. You can change the technique because of the different grips on the gi and stuff. You can do still the no-gi stuff, doing them in the gi. So at least in my opinion, there is more to it when you train in the gi.
What competitions are you looking forward to coming up?
I'm gonna do gi pants and gi words for now. I don't know if I'm looking into something on the way. I wish I got invited to ADCC this year, but if I won't be invited, that's fine. It's okay. I'm not gonna be sad about it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And maybe for sure no-gi words at the end of the year. I'm not gonna do no-gi pants anymore because I promised myself that if I win double gold at at an event, I'm not doing this event again. Only maybe if I really want to, then I will. But otherwise I would stop there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you got your purple belt, and that's when you kind of moved to the U.S. or you came here and made that transition. When did you get your black belt?
I got my black belt last year on the 4th of July. Last year, no, 2017, because we're 2019 already. So almost, not even a year and a half ago. Yeah.
On the 4th of July?
Yes.
Okay.
So it will be hard to forget.
How? Yeah, that would. How has that changed things for you? Are you competing? I know it's different for everybody. Are you competing against different people from a brown belt, or a lot of the times it's like they kind of mix up the brown belts in the black belt division, or how's that going?
Oh, I don't really go to many of the, like I don't go to pretty much any events now where they mix brown belts with the black belts. And most of the girls that were like purple belts and brown belts with me have had their black belts already for a couple of years. So like when I went for my first event as a black belt, I was, I wasn't thinking only about winning. I wanted to see if I fit there, because I wasn't sure if if it's like, of course, Abmar gave me the black belt, so he knew I will fit there, but still I had to make sure myself that this is the right place for me to be.
Did you have that same feeling at each belt level?
No.
Just that, because I think a lot of people have that. Let's just say somebody got, a new blue belt and they want to go compete again. They feel, well, am I supposed to be here? What's this going to be like? What advice would you have for somebody who's thinking about that? Maybe they just got a belt and they're going to go compete.
I think if your coach thinks you are ready, then you're ready. You just gotta go and try. If it doesn't go so well, hey, you still have time to go train, fix your mistakes, keep training, get better, and go compete again. It's not the end of the world if you don't win. You just have to do your best. As long as you do your best, you try, that's fine,
So that's great advice, not to put too much stress on yourself. What do you do before you go compete? Like, if you're going to compete in 30 minutes, you're on the mat. What are you doing to focus or to get ready for that, either mentally or physically?
I'm listening to the same playlist that I listen while I train. Exactly the same playlist. Like it might get boring one day, but I listen to the same playlist when I'm in the gym lifting, when I'm training. At least I try, if people don't change the playlist, and then I listen to the same music before I go fight. I try to think about my goal, right, which is winning the competition, obviously, and focus already on the fight, thinking only about the fight. Try not to think about anything else. If I do, then I know it's not gonna go really well, I had that problem now at Nogi Worlds, that I couldn't focus, so some fights didn't go as I planned. And I had that problem before too. And you just gotta, when you have some problems in your life, like different things going on, sometimes it's hard to turn off and only focus on the thing that you're gonna do at the moment. So I think it's very important that when you go compete, to make sure everything, at least the things that you can make sure of, that are fine, that you don't have any conflicts with anyone, that you paid all of your bills, that nothing is waiting, I think that's it. You have to have your mind has to be clear, so you can focus only on the fight.
Yeah, that's good advice, and it helps you, like you're saying, you want to focus on the fight. You don't want to have your mind on anything that's distracting you. And if you take care of those things beforehand, you're going to be good.
Yeah.
Do you think that the music helps you get in that mode, or help you focus on the fight and keep you from getting distracted with thinking about bills, or thinking about maybe, last year at the same event or something like that?
Yeah, I think it also gets my body ready. My body already knows it's time. It's time to go. It's what it does when it listens to that music. that it's not time to relax or lay down or whatever. That's the music that makes me go, that I train, I get tired, I do what I can, and that's it. I don't know, that helped me, that I started doing that actually, I think at Guy Panems last year, and it actually worked pretty well for me, better than any other music.
What song are you listening to? Is there any that you really like?
Like the music that I listen to, actually, I didn't like it very much before, but it's a good kind of music to train. It's like electro dance music,
Yeah.
That's not really kind of music that I would listen to, but it actually it's really gets you going.
That's good. And yeah, that's interesting because you might think, I just want to play my favorite songs. But if your favorite songs are kind of slow or they make you kind of, I don't know,
think
relaxed.
About something else or think about your love life or breakups or whatever, right? Because that's how it happens sometimes with those favorite music. Your first dance with your wife or whatever. Yeah, it's better, I think, to get something that's only connected to your training. But at least that's what works for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that like anybody can think about that, and I hadn't thought about, some songs might make me kind of sad or make me kind of think about a time in my life where things were different, and I might start reminiscing about that. And my head isn't in the game anymore, and I want to be thinking about the match that's right in front of me that's going to happen, and how I want to perform. That's great advice. Do you have looking back at all your competitions, do you have any favorite matches or maybe a match where you surprised yourself?
My favorite match, I think, where I actually surprised myself was at ADCC in 2013 when I got Penny Thomas go to sleep very quickly. That was, I think, my favorite match where I surprised myself. And also I had another match with Penny Thomas too at Grappling World Championships, I think a year before. And I was a blue belt back then, and the other girls there were maybe purple belts, blue belts, whatever, right? Only Penny Thomas was there as a black belt. And she dealt with all the other girls pretty quickly without, any problems. And then she went with me in no-gi, and I got a knee bar when I didn't even train knee bars. Then I was a blue belt, so I didn't even know, actually, I never did a knee bar in a class. So that was a moment that surprised me too. Yeah, otherwise, other matches I don't really...
That's pretty cool. So why do you think you even tried that knee bar if you weren't real familiar with it?
I have no idea. I just got the leg and I went for it,
Yeah.
It's similar to an armbar, I guess.
Yeah. And what was the choke you used on Penny Thomas?
It was a guillotine. So she went for a double leg, I think, and put her head on the outside, and I got the head, and then that was it.
Wow. Do you remember any of your really early tournaments and how those went?
I remember the best, the matches where I was so happy I cried, actually.
Yeah.
I guess that's that those are the memories that we have for longer are the ones that make us all really, really happy or really, really sad, right?
Yeah. If anytime emotion gets brought in, I think it affects your memory. Yeah.
So after when I won my ticket job, that's another match that I really like to go back to and watch it. And it was they had how do I cameras to record TV show or whatever, special cameras with a giant thing that it was standing on, and it was steered with I don't know what, but it was moving on its own, a joystick maybe or something. And the video was amazing. It was a professional video from sport TV, So that's probably why I really like to watch it. And there were like a part at the end where for the best actions, you know. So that's one of the fights that I really like to go back and watch, even though I was a white belt. So.
Yeah, that I could see that would be really neat to see, and why it would be. We don't always get that in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
So if you have a student that's going to do like a first tournament, or maybe a listener is going to do that, what advice do you have for them to go out there and do their best and have a good time?
Like what I said earlier, just go, do your best, have like, of course, everybody's going to be stressed. Everybody gets stressed because when something is important to you, and most of the time it's important for them to win, right? They want to see that they managed to do it, to get the gold medal, because that's the ultimate goal at the competition. But yeah, just go there, do your best, listen to your coach, and to do what they tell you to do. You know, and if it doesn't go the way you want it, if you did everything, there's no reason to be sad about it. That's what I think.
Yeah.
If you didn't make any like obvious mistakes, or you were not moving or whatever.
Yeah, there's definitely things in jiu-jitsu that we can't control, and there's another person involved that you would like to control, but you can't always do that.
They don't want to be controlled either.
Yeah. Marisha, when did you start training with guys? Like when you were doing judo, was that a mixed class, or was that girls only back then? So
when I started judo, it was girls only, and there were only girls about my age in that class, and that class was, I think, only twice a week. So I would wait for long, like every day, like I would think it's the next day that I'm going to go to judo, right? I would tell my mom on Sunday, I'm like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to judo. And my mom's like, no, it's not tomorrow. Tomorrow is Monday. You're going only on Tuesday. And after a while, my coach let me to train in the adult class with all the adults and all the boys. And, it was pretty much teenagers and adults. Some adults would come. And after a while, I was even allowed to stay on Wednesday for a class for old people. That's what we called it, for old people. So I would train like 6 times a week. I was training with men, I would say pretty quickly, after a few months already.
I know with a lot of like students, and a lot of times new girls will come in, and it's a little intimidating. What advice do you have for them to do that, or to train to where they feel comfortable? Like,
I think if you feel uncomfortable, try to find a place where there is at least one girl, and like you can ask, of course, probably to have a girl help you out first, because I totally understand that it may be awkward. When I started judo, even though I was training with girls my age, it was we started on the floor, like we started doing newaza, and for me it was awkward too to have somebody in my guard, like close guard. Even though I was 13 years old, and I was like, yeah, that's weird. But so that's what I think about older women that start training, or even younger. Like, it must be really awkward for them, to get somebody into their guard. It's really good, I think, to find some gym, or at least, I think it's important when maybe not important, but it's good to start with a lady.
Yeah.
So you feel a little bit less uncomfortable, I would say.
Can you think of any like common training mistakes that women will make when they start training jiu-jitsu?
Like, I haven't heard any comments from the people that I know that train. But for example, my best friend, for her doing jiu-jitsu is impossible. Because she sees it the other way. She doesn't see it like every other normal person who trains jiu-jitsu, For her, it's very like sexual. At least that's what it looks for her, you know, when you, so I guess it's not maybe for everyone. So I didn't hear any other comments besides my best friends. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see, like, I can understand why she sees it that way. For me, it wasn't something obvious, because I started when I was 13 years old, and didn't even think about it that way. It was always for me just a sport. But I can understand why a person can see it that way.
Do you think that some people will feel that way and then they change their mind about it once they're around it more and they see it more?
Yeah, I think everybody who's gonna try it and try to roll with somebody can see that there is nothing sexual about it. Seriously, like it's a fight. It's a martial art. It's not cuddling.
Yeah.
And you can definitely feel it when people are trying, to sweep you, armbar you, or pass your guard. You can already see it has nothing to do.
Yeah. So, like, I think, women's jiu-jitsu is definitely growing, and a lot of that is more and more schools have women's programs, which help that a lot. But definitely not all schools have those. Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for a coach? Let's just pretend I have my own school, and I'm the instructor and the owner and everything. How could I get a women's program going?
I can't really help you very much with that because I tried women's program in my academy where I train, right? And I had no success. And now I'm teaching a women's program in our affiliate. And right now I have about 5 students and the program hasn't grown since, So the problem with women is working with women is that for many women, there are other things that are more important than themselves. Like they have husbands, they have kids, they have house, job, and everything else is always more important than them. So if there is anything with the kids or like the husband can take care of the kids, of course, they're going to do it, right? If the husband wants to go somewhere at the same time, they're going to be like, okay, I got to stay with the kids. So it's really like, at least from my point, from what I've seen, it's really hard with women's programs.
So maybe like part of the program, would remind people that it's okay to put yourself first in some situations, that you need to be happy and pursue your own interests as well, versus just be a person who just supports everybody else.
Good luck with women who have a lot of kids, or even one.
Get the kids doing jiu-jitsu, or maybe these days of the week you get to go trade and make your husband go.
Or maybe have like a playroom in the academy.
That's a good idea.
Your kids there. Make sure, like we have for example, in our academy we have some toys, we have some building blocks. So if any kids, if any parents bring kids, they can play or whatever. But not many people actually do that. Like some people will bring their kids, but not many.
Yeah, but that
maybe for some it's just an excuse to.
Huh. That's interesting. I mean, and everybody has their own challenges to get to the mat, but sometimes people have a lot more than others. And, and there are definitely some phases in our lives where you have to, okay, right now I'm barely making any money and I have to work really hard to make ends meet. And maybe jiu-jitsu for the next couple of months isn't my priority, or even I'm able to do that for a little while. So life hits you.
Another thing is true. I've heard that our brain is trying, to make us survive our body. So let's be honest, jiu-jitsu is not easy on your body, right? You get tired, you are sore after class, and everything and all those things, right? So that's another thing that maybe your brain helps you to find excuses to not to do something it's hard, I have one kid student that his mom tells me that every time she wants to take him to jiu-jitsu, he's complaining that does he really have to go, like he doesn't want to go. But when he comes to class, he's happy, he trains, he does good, and he's happy when he leaves the academy. So it's hard, because jiu-jitsu is difficult. I think many people try to find excuses to not to do it, even if they want. Maybe maybe they want to do it, but they're not willing to sacrifice that much.
So that's interesting as well. Maybe, obviously if the kid hates it, you give it a fair chance and make sure that, it's either right or wrong for them. But, just because one day they're not feeling it, I've had a lot of things like that. I feel like, well, I don't really think I'm going to do great today. I feel kind of sluggish, or maybe I'm sleepy. And I show up and I have a great day, and I'm having fun, and I learn maybe a really great technique, and I roll good. Whatever. Like, I can't predict how good I'm going to do at jiu-jitsu when I'm driving to jiu-jitsu. I'm always wrong. I'll feel like I'm going to do great, and I do terrible. Where I feel like I guess I'll go. I need to get in today and go train, and it's like a great time. And I think that, like, that's important maybe to push a little bit when you feel those things resisting.
Many people are not willing to push. Maybe they were not pushed when they were kids. Like, I think it's important to have kids do like martial arts and stuff, because they learn a lot of things, not only technique, but they learn how to be consistent, come train, do what they have to do, right? I think that's gonna help them when they get into the adult part of life, when they will have to do things and be consistent about some things. Like, even when you're not feeling it, that you're gonna go and do it because you have to, right? And now it is what it is. Like, everybody's looking to make life as easy as possible, but it's not always that easy.
Yeah. And also, if you're good at pushing and good at that discipline or developing that grit, eventually life will throw something that's challenging at you.
Yeah.
And it might be you get fired, or maybe a loved one gets sick, or whatever. And you'll have some of that tenacity and some of that built up in your system, and you're able to handle things a little bit better. And it might just be because as a kid you did jiu-jitsu, and I could do this. I could handle a lot of things, and it gives you that ability to do things greater than just be good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for me, when I was a kid and I was training judo, for me the most important part of the day was to go to judo.
Yeah.
There was, like, even when I was older, there was, for me, okay, I could go to a party on Friday night, but first I had to go train, and then I could go and meet my friends. So I would never skip training to go out. And another thing that judo saved me from was like drugs and stuff, because like I've heard that at my school there were drugs, but I had no idea about it because I was never, I guess, interested or didn't party hard enough to hear about them even. So
yeah, so that's another large benefit that you don't think of necessarily. You think the kid will learn martial art, but really
it keeps you from the bad stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of times you hang out with kids that aren't also doing bad stuff.
Yeah,
that's a great point, because the other kids likely, hopefully don't have a whole bunch of jiu-jitsu kids doing drugs together.
Yeah,
but likely those kids are not doing drugs. So if they spend time after school with the neighbor kids, that's a little bit harder to control, and it's not a supervised environment necessarily.
Yeah.
But when you go to jiu-jitsu and you're hanging out with kids that are wanting to learn jiu-jitsu, and maybe you go to a competition and get better, and they're excited about that.
There's another reason for them to say no. Say, hey, no, I don't want to do it. Like, even if they hang with those, because let's be honest, kids and like teenagers, everybody, they just want to try those things because they're like, they're illegal. Like, everybody thinks about drinking alcohol, and they're waiting only to get, I guess, here 21. But some people probably start even earlier because they can't do it, so they will do it. But when you train and you think about competing and everything, you already know that you can't do those things. Like, you can't smoke because your cardio gonna be bad, right? You can't drink because you're not gonna feel good the next day to go train. And like, same things with drugs. I don't know.
Yeah, just imagine the kids, they want to be accepted by peers. They want to feel like they're cool or
True.
whatever. But hey, try these drugs. No, I got a fight coming up. I got to train. Like, that's cooler than trying drugs. Like,
exactly.
I got something that's going to be serious in a little bit here. I'm training for a tournament or a fight, and just say that, and then I guarantee you, okay, I understand that. Like, of course you're training, because that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So I think that's a cool excuse versus, I don't know, any other excuses that there are. But
yeah, I think I was always a cool kid, even though I didn't party as much,
Not me. I think any kid doing judo is probably pretty cool.
Yeah.
I definitely was not one of those kids. But yeah, that's. I mean, I didn't think we'd get onto this topic of kids and stuff, but I think these are all important things, and it's important to remember that it's not just about the adult division and all these things that these kids grow up and they're going to have these memories of jiu-jitsu, and whether they do jiu-jitsu or a different martial art as they get older, they definitely learn a lot of lessons on the mat.
Yeah.
Marisha, we can't all train like 5 times a week and do all these other things that make us are the best we can be at jiu-jitsu, but a lot of people are only able to train once a week, maybe twice a week. What advice do you have for that individual that has a very limited schedule and they do want to get better at jiu-jitsu?
I think that if you train only once a week, you still can find time to train, I think, at least one more time a week. If you train twice, I think you can find one more to train 3, When you train once a week, I can see that from my students, right? When you train once a week and you just started, it's really hard to actually learn something because during that week you forget everything. And then you come to class and you come to class again the next week and you don't really remember what you did last week, and then the group is doing already something else. So it will probably take you forever to get to blue belt, and then probably you're going to quit before you get to that blue belt. So if you really think about doing jiu-jitsu and train jiu-jitsu and actually learning something, not just coming to exercise, then try to find more time to train. Like you can either find a gym where they have like morning classes or noon classes, or even do some private classes.
Yeah, that's great advice. So maybe the gym that you're with now only has classes at a certain time, and that doesn't really work with your schedule. That would be, okay to even talk to your instructor. Hey, I want to train more than once a week, and it looks like because of the classes that you have, I can't train very often here. And so I'm looking at either adding a place or just changing. And I would think, that's most instructors obviously want to keep their students. But if you're only able to train once a week and you want to train more, and it's just a matter of scheduling, that's a perfectly good reason to say, it's going to be worth it for me to train twice a week over here.
And even if you love your gym where you train once a week, and there is another gym that has classes that work better for you, and you can, maybe train at both places, right? You can always talk to your coach and tell him about it. And if he thinks this is wrong, like gonna call you creonte or whatever, then get out from there and go somewhere else. Let's be honest, jiu-jitsu is not... Okay, it's kind of a family too, but it's a business. They're making money out of you. So if you find a place where the time is better, or you like the people better, don't be scared to leave or train even at both places, because this is your money that you're spending.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a family, but family should also be understanding of what you want to do with your goals.
If somebody is your family, then they're going to be your family no matter where you train.
Not just because you pay them.
Yeah, exactly.
But so I think that's important to talk to them and not just, if you just leave, they don't understand and maybe they're hurt a little bit more. But if you say, I've really got some things over here that I'm wanting to do, or the schedule I think is pretty easy because that's pretty cut and dry. Like I need to train before I go to work. You don't have a morning class that I can get to. So it looks like I have no other options. I need to train here.
Or another thing you can do, if there's you want to have let's say morning class and your gym doesn't have morning class, maybe find more people who want to do morning class, and then maybe your academy can open a morning class.
There you go. That's awesome, and there's more ways to solve a problem, and maybe your instructor would love to have that opportunity, and maybe a lot of your other teammates would jump on that as well.
Exactly. So you just gotta, if you have a problem, you gotta talk about it and fix it. Like keeping the problem to yourself is not gonna fix anything.
Do you have any advice for somebody in that spot? Maybe they're just a blue belt and there's no morning class, and hey, I really want to go to a place where there's morning class, and I said, well, you could teach it. Well, I'm a blue belt. Okay. what advice do you have for that blue belt that's going to be teaching a small class, but it feels like a lot of responsibility?
So if your instructor told you maybe you could be teaching that class, then it probably means that he thinks you are ready to teach that class. If anytime you have problem coming up with something, like coming up with a curriculum or what to do in class, ask your instructor for help. Ask him if he can sit with you and work on a curriculum that you could keep going through, in time.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I know sometimes I'll teach a class and I show up and it's like, hey, looks like you're teaching today. Like, oh, okay. What are we teaching? Like, I don't know. But if you have that curriculum, you get to kind of think about it and to kind of make a game plan as far as the way the class is going to go. And I think that makes it a lot easier and better.
You can even, if not a curriculum, you can always make a monthly plan. Meet once a week, once a month, and make a plan for the next month, what you're supposed to be teaching. And anytime you have a question, don't hesitate and go ask a question.
Yeah, that's all. That's for also jiu-jitsu. If you have a question, why something's not working or whatever, that's what we're there for. Is that help answer your questions and make you help you achieve your goals.
Yeah, there is no stupid questions. There are only stupid answers.
I like that. You have some help out there. Tell me a little bit about the gym you train at.
So I'm training at Abmar Barbosa Jiu-Jitsu Academy. Yesterday, on the 21st of January, we had our second anniversary of opening. What can I say more? We are located in Tyson's Corner, Virginia. And we're open for everyone. If anybody, for example, like what I said, if you have your gym that you love, your family, but let's say you work in Tyson's Corner and want to come to noon class, feel free to come anytime. We don't have any problem with that. Like, we are, we're a family too, but we are a business. So if you don't want to cheat on your family or whatever, jiu-jitsu family, you can always come and just train with us and compete for your team. So that's pretty much it about the academy, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. And is there like a website or Facebook page I could link to that?
Yes, there's a website. It's BjjAcademy.com.
Awesome. And do you have any sponsors or people helping you out?
Yes, I do. I have on Instagram, You Got to Be Strong, for my coach for strength and conditioning. And I have Hyperfly that gives me all of my amazing gear. And I can tell you all now my discount code for 10% off. It's Grumpy10. And I would like
Grumpy,
to...
like spell that.
Grumpy, like
okay.
the grumpy one from...
The dwarfs? GR.
Yes.
Okay, I gotcha. Yes. Grumpy10.
Mm-hmm. And also I would like to thank my nutritionist, Natalia Palmowska from Poland, who took care of my weight class problems.
Awesome. Yeah. It's good to have some help like that. I gotta know, is there a reason why the coupon code is Grumpy10? I understand the 10 is 10% off.
Yes, my Instagram handle is GrumpyGirlBjj.
Okay,
they call me Grumpy.
Why do they call you Grumpy?
Because I have a grumpy face, apparently.
Okay, yeah, you sound very friendly to me.
You didn't see me, that's why.
Oh, you're making me laugh, so that's good. I appreciate that. And I'll put a link to your Instagram as well.
Thank you.
And you're also on Facebook. What's your Facebook profile?
My Facebook fan page is Maria Malyjasiak BjJ.
Okay, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes, easy to find, and everything else as well.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for jumping on here with me and talking about jiu-jitsu.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
It was great to learn from Marisha this week. I really appreciate her jumping on the line with me and sharing some of her story and some of her lessons that she's learned over the years. Thank you so much, Marisha. Man, if you have enjoyed this episode so far, tell a buddy about it. And it really helps spread the information on the show and spread the show around as well. like our previous sponsor was Peter Pan Peanut Butter. Spread it around like that, you know.
Week?
Who do we have this week?
This week, Byron.
Good question. And we're actually sponsored by the Three Stooges DVD release.
Byron's messing with you. We're actually sponsored by Apple. A pretty big sponsor. Not the computer company, the fruit. So an apple a day keeps the doctor away. That's their motto.
Yeah.
So make sure you have an apple.
When we secured that sponsor, Joe was the one that actually secured the sponsor, and Gary and I were like super excited. Wow, we got sponsored by Apple. And then, a couple days go by, we get a shipment of apples to our house, and we're like, okay, this is unusual. But we come to find out that really it's just the fruit. Yeah, we'll take it.
Well, the bad part is
an apple a day for an hour's worth of work every weekend. That's a pretty good deal when you think about it.
That's definitely a great deal. And but the bad part is, normally sponsors, they did give us apples, but we had to pay for them.
Yeah, and they seem like to be like a high price, actually.
Yeah, but I think it's for delivery, Byron.
Yeah, that's true, because I sure can't go to the store a mile away and get apples.
Delivered to you.
Yeah. So.
Wait, you guys don't get your groceries delivered to you?
I think our stores around here have that service because we, not to brag, are in Wichita, Kansas, one of the cutting edge cities in the United States as far as like home delivery and that sort of thing, and airplanes. If you want to train with Gary or myself, give us an email, bjjbrick@gmail.com, or send us a message on Facebook, and we'll train with you in Wichita. Now, Joe's not quite as advanced in his city, the small town, Houston, a little south of Houston, actually. A few people live in that area, but
if you want to train with me and you're in the Houston area, hit me up. We'll do some training. And while you're here, if you would like to get your groceries delivered to your house, you can do that too, because that's how we roll down here in Texas, man.
Definitely. Joe trains in Texas. We train in Wichita. And we all have a different reason for training. Why do we train? And this week we have an awesome article from a guy that actually came out and trained with us, Jason from Cato Jiu-Jitsu in Mankato, Minnesota. He's got a great blog. We'll put a link to it on our show notes, but it's catojujitsu.tumblr.com. But this one is Why I Train. And we talked about not showing up the very first day or pulling the trigger to get in the gym the very first time. And, most of the time when we go there, we don't know our why. We may have watched jiu-jitsu, we may have watched the UFC, and we want to learn, or we may want to lose a little bit of weight, or, get more flexible. But really, until we start, I don't know if we really know our why. We have a reason for going. But Jason's article, hit me like a guillotine choke that Byron puts on me. It just hit me that quick. And Jason, I think, is just like me, the why I train. And we're all going to have different reasons. But, I like what Jason talks about is, it just makes him a better person when he goes to a gym. He talks about, a lot of people struggle with bouts of depression. You look at today's society, we've got spouses, kids, careers, owning businesses. You're trying to do it right. There's so much pulling you in different ways. And, he's talking about, he'll come home and his wife can see him stressed, and his wife will say, Jason, get to the gym. And, my wife does the same thing to me. She sees days where I'm not in the greatest mood, tells me to get to the gym. And, when I get to the gym like Jason, man, I forget about everything. I'm there. And like Jason says, I find myself smiling when I'm rolling. And it's never easy rolling. We're getting smashed. We're getting, put in some weird positions. As Jason says, you're relishing the suck. But it does, for me and for Jason and for many other people, and we all have different whys, why we train. But, man, I am such a better person. I don't know how it works on the body, what chemicals, go through the body, but I am a whole different person after I train. And, It's like a drug, I guess. I don't know. I don't really do drugs except for jiu-jitsu, because I guess jiu-jitsu is a drug for me. But
I'm telling you, work, Gary.
Yeah. Well, hey, somebody just knocked on my door. What? You want me to pee in this cup? Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Byron.
Don't splash on the microphone, please.
Fortunately, jiu-jitsu doesn't show up in pee tests, so you're okay.
Well,
you can't hit the cup
blood
anyway.
in there from a errant knee that hit me in the kidney.
Inadvertent groin shots. Oh, man. I really like this article too, Gary. I like your take on it as usual. One of the things I like about it is I believe that having a strong why is one of the things that gets you through those times when you're starting to second guess whether you want to spend this much time and this much money to come home and be sore. I think everybody goes through that at some point. And if you've got a really strong why, it'll get you through that. When you come out on the other side, you'll be glad that you did. So I like the way he ends the article where he says, I know my why, find yours. Because I think it's important. The other thing, though, that jumped out at me when I read this article is he's talking about himself. He has struggled with depression before. And then he talked about, some people are doing jiu-jitsu because they're coming back from a major health crisis, or maybe they're using jiu-jitsu to replace drugs and alcohol. Maybe they've had a problem with that. Maybe they just came out of a bad divorce. I don't think he listed that one specifically, but I'm just thinking of all those things once he got me to thinking about that. And I always try and keep in mind when I go to the grocery store or any place of business and I don't feel like the person that's on the other side of the counter is treating me very well, or maybe they're being slow, or for some reason the transaction's not going well. I always remind myself that I don't know what their day's been like or what their week's been like, what they got going on in their life. And that helps me to treat them kindly and not get ticked off with the way things are going. I've never thought about that when I go into the jiu-jitsu gym. So now that I'm thinking about that, you go in and maybe somebody's not as friendly as you expect them to be. They've been there for almost as long as you. And so that maybe ticks you off a little bit, or maybe they don't give you a good role, or, for whatever reason, you're thinking, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Well, maybe there is something wrong. And so maybe from my perspective, I need to give people a little more slack and keep in mind that I don't know how their day was. And if they're fairly new to the gym, I don't know why they're there. So I appreciate him kind of showing that perspective too.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe, there. But I also like the point you were bringing up, that knowing your why will help you keep you going through the tough times. And it made me think about where we were talking about the stresses in our daily lives. You were talking about, the time that we do for jiu-jitsu and the money in jiu-jitsu. And we're talking about how Jason, once he gets to the gym, he's pulled in all sorts of different ways with his job, his family, his kids, everything just pulling in one way. And you could almost look at jiu-jitsu pulling you too and adding to that stress, because, it's another couple hours a day away from your wife and your kids, which could lead to issues. And it does cost some money. Jiu-jitsu, you're going to pay for that service. So, that could be a couple other things, but that why, that keeps you going is so much stronger. That drug effect, that euphoria or whatever it does, but that why will keep you going. And as Joe and Jason said, come out better on the other side. We spend some money to do jiu-jitsu. It leads to more stress, but we know our why. We know when we go to jiu-jitsu, we're going to come out better after the class. It's money well spent. It's time well spent. It's going to make us a better person.
Yeah, I really think Jason did a great job with this article, and I think that this is perfect for anybody to see that there's more to jiu-jitsu than just people choking each other. He said in here that people ask him, why do you train jiu-jitsu? And he could answer stuff like, to get in shape, develop discipline, focus, self-defense, that sort of stuff. But when it comes down to it, on like a cold evening, he doesn't really feel like he's been with his family much, and he should be spend some time at home or whatever. He still is able to grab his gi and go to jiu-jitsu, kiss his family goodbye, and get to the gym. And how is he able to do that? Because he knows that he's the better version of himself when he trains jiu-jitsu. So they could get, I'll use me because I don't really know how Jason is, but like my wife could have the grumpy version of Byron all day, or I can go do jiu-jitsu and I'll be gone for an hour and a half. A lot of times she'll come with me, and then it's a different version of Byron the whole day. Better. Enhanced, you might say.
Yeah, I mean, you have the grumpy version of Byron, and you have the half grumpy version of Byron.
Yes. Where I poke Gary in the eyes or I just slap him in the face, like Three Stooges style. No, if it's changing the kind of who you are around the people, there's definitely value in that as well. And that's not a reason we typically think of for jiu-jitsu, but you might think, man, I should, haven't had enough time with my family lately, and you sit at home and you just play on your phone the whole time, or you're getting an argument with them anyway, or whatever. Go train, do some jiu-jitsu, maybe go run around the block or lift some weights or kettlebell swings or whatever you do. Change that up a little bit. And then when you come back, hopefully you'll be a better version of yourself. And I think that jiu-jitsu offers, a lot of things that, most workouts don't bring. That you get that social interaction to kind of it's hard for me to leave jiu-jitsu not feeling great. Not just physically, but just like you get to work out with your buddies. Man, that's awesome. And so I come home, I'm in a good mood every time. Even if I didn't do real great on the mats or get a little banged up, I'm still pretty happy usually. So that's one thing that I think he hit that nail on the head instead of on my thumb.
And we'll have a link to this article in the show notes. Check out his blog. It's kind of a new blog, but he's got another good one on there about newbies starting jiu-jitsu, and so check that out. But awesome job, Jason. Thank you very much.
Yep. So it's important to know your why. Like Byron said, part of that why is it makes you a better person. We got Valentine's Day coming up.
Aww.
Either when this episode airs, it'll either be right before or right after Valentine's Day, which I know I'm skipping ahead here a little bit, but Gary thought that was a good time for him to release his new audiobook he's been working on. Jiu-Jitsu for Lovers. 10 things I've learned on the mat that have stoked the fires at home.
Whoa.
Gary, I'm excited to hear about this book. Why don't you start right off the bat and tell us what's that first thing that you learned in jiu-jitsu that has stoke the fires at home, as they say?
Well, let's back up a little bit. You're talking about stoke the fires, and Byron's a firefighter, and we've talked about it a little bit earlier. But one of the big tricks is candles. Scented candles. You can buy candles with pheromones in it. I don't know if you've ever kind of seen a picture of me, but I don't attract women. About the only thing I attract is flies. So I have to use every advantage in the book, and one of them is candles, pheromones with it, and that's one great way to attract, to attract others, I guess.
So Gary, real quick, I think you do most of your rolling with a bunch of guys in your basement. How is it that in that environment you learned about using candles?
Oh, well, sometimes they come at me a little aggressively, and I'm the old guy, right? So, one thing, as being a little bit older, we can't move as fast. So, a lot of times scented candles put people in a little different mood. They're not as aggressive. They're looking for cuddly time. They let their back get taken, willingly. And, when you can take somebody's back willingly, they give it to you. That's great.
Nice. And so, do you play a little Lionel Richie and Air Supply in the background?
No, we're all Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye. No pun intended.
No pun intended. Yeah, Gary talks about being a little nervous showing up to jiu-jitsu for the first time. You try going into a basement that's candlelit, full of a bunch of guys grappling down there. It's a little bit nerve-wracking.
It's nerve-wracking, and especially, we don't train in a gi. We train in leather spats.
Which brings us to one of your other points for the romance.
What would that be, Byron?
Your left.
People like leather. Some of us wear leather spats. A couple other people have satin spats and silk. And, sometimes just the fabric can get people in the mood. So, who the heck likes burlap and hemp? I guess hemp could do it if you're inhaling it. But the good thing is fabrics can, get people in that mood also. So, I've devoted a whole chapter on that of, different fabrics, colors too. Different colors can get people in the mood. And you want to bring, the color of your fabrics, based on your eyes, your color of your eyes. So you want to do that. But
yeah. Gary, this is a great point, because the fabric of a gi just turns me into wanting to grapple right away. And so I've had to get away from wearing my gi as I drive to training and away from training. So, I wouldn't get into these confrontations on the way to grappling. So the gi stays in the bag, and then I put the gi on when I get there, and then I'm in the mood to grapple. And I don't have to fight that the whole way in traffic.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed, and I learned this through trial and error, is what I used to do is, when we're getting in the mood, I would run into the other room real quick. And, I used to watch, Hugh Hefner was always one of my idols. And he would always wear that robe, a silk robe, normally red, which is a color of Valentine's Day. But what I would do is I would go into the other room and I would put on my gi, and I would all of a sudden come into the bedroom, and, my partner there would then, my significant other would then not be, in the mood anymore. I thought the gi would do it. So what I've learned through trial and error is to get a red silk robe like Hugh Hefner has, because everybody's seen Hugh Hefner, and, it makes a statement. But you need to seem manly. Chicks dig jiu-jitsu even if they don't know it or not. They just don't like the gi and the spats and all that. So what you do is you wear the red silk robe, but get rid of the belt on the silk robe and put your jiu-jitsu belt on. That way, your significant other knows you train, and that's bad ASS, so that's pretty cool. Plus, you have the color and you have the fabric to get the person in the mood. So that works really well.
Gary, I like how you spell the word ass, and we're talking about some pretty out there things.
Yeah, I got to keep this PG-13, right?
So we're deep with our leather spats.
Yeah. But I didn't say ASS less spats.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's hard
Which
to
is
spell.
what I wanted to do.
That's a lot of
this
S's.
I think is a great, great audiobook.
And a great Valentine's Day gift. When's it coming out, Gary?
Well, it's coming out right either before or after Boxing Day in Canada. So, it's a good time for it to come out. And, every audiobook you order also comes with a box of chocolate.
Ooh.
Now, what a deal.
Yeah, it's a great deal. And, I know I've talked to Joe about it, because Joe is the guy I talk to about the value it brings. So, there's a ton of value in this, like Joe said. So we're giving you a real value on it. We're only 49 payments of $19.95, and I'll even let you make payments. So that way you don't have to come up with it all up front.
Yeah, don't do the math on that one. Just order the book today. It'll
give me your credit card number.
You cancel it then.
Well, you can cancel any time. There's only a fee of $1,000 to cancel.
Oh, Gary. Well, somebody has gotten power hungry with his greed. When Gary started this journey, it was about, really, bringing more candles in to jiu-jitsu and then bringing them into the other rooms of our house or whatever. And now it's about money. But you can't blame him. It's such a good book. You get what you pay for, huh, Gary?
Definitely get what you pay for. And I really think this is going to help a lot of people with their relationships.
The BjjBrick Podcast is free. Did you guys realize that?
Yeah, so we got to make money some way.
Some people are actually volunteering to donate money per episode.
And we appreciate the heck out of it. It goes to make the show better. It goes to cover some supplies. It's gone in the past to cover travel for events. And we're hoping that you're getting your money's worth, and we're hoping the show's better and better every week. So thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Yep, and I want to give a special shout-out to our newest Patreon supporters, Noah and Robert. Man, you could find these guys by looking at their gis, and hopefully they'll have a 5-inch BjjBrick gi patch attached to that thing because they've already got possession of it. We also mail out a BjjBrick sticker. And Noah and Robert, you guys are invited to join our private Facebook group. If you're on Facebook, send us a message that you want to join the group, and we'll get you added to that. We'll have some behind-the-scenes discussions and that sort of thing sometimes, and it's nice to have a little bit of a group to bounce some ideas off of that's bigger than Joe and Gary and myself, but not the entire community, and that's really what that's used for. It's been a tremendous resource, and it's been a kind of a fun way to be in contact with some of the more dedicated listeners, the Patreon supporters. That's what they are. You're pretty dedicated when you're willing to donate like $1 per episode. That means a lot to us. You can also find us on YouTube, Facebook. I mentioned that, and we also have an app in the App Store, BjjBrick. If you type in BjjBrick, we should pop up. If it doesn't, other BJJ and other brick apps are doing quite well.
Yep. And check out the video Joe posted not too long ago of Byron showing how to pick locks. You know, we don't just help you out in jiu-jitsu. We try to help you out in life there also. Picking locks is a very important skill to have.
Yeah, you know, for those guys who are paranoid about losing their nice jiu-jitsu gear and they put a little lock on their gym bag, and it's been so long since you've been to class you can't remember the combo, Byron can help you out.
Absolutely.
Evan, you know, that's one thing I never realized Byron had those skills. I did not know. Byron, how did you pick those skills up?
Easy pickings, Gary.
You know, when he was in the joint, he was bunked up with a notorious robber and picked up his some tips from him.
The funny thing is,
tips from him.
Yeah, he got tips, all right. But the funny thing is, when Byron was in prison, and I mean, they had him in a cell with numerous other inmates, Byron didn't want to leave. He didn't want to come back out. I don't know why.
The camaraderie, Gary.
Camaraderie.
Okay. Yeah. Said he was a better version of himself.
All right. Well, I think I have the ability to wrap this up, so I don't know why I would not at this point. Stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Train hard, train smart, get better, guys. We'll see you on the mats.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Man, I'm going to steal a little trick from Gary when he's talking about his audiobook. When I roll with people, when I slap and bump, I'm going to say, man, I really love that gi. Blue makes your eyes pop.
I still want to see somebody wearing their robe with their jiu-jitsu belt. That's what I want to see.
That's a dedicated student.
Yep. Yeah. But, you know, the ladies love guys with skills.
Yeah.
That's true. Gotta get skills.
I should have asked somebody to send a picture of themselves doing that.
Joe will do it.
Yeah.
Joe will send that picture.
Someone doing what?
With the robe and the belt.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that would be awesome.